We're opening up the meeting of June 13th. All right, Brian, you have something to go with.
Yep, thank you. So what we're getting together for is to talk about the change order that came in last Friday from CC Construction. That took a quick look at it, and I originally thought that there was a credit of about $108,000. I'm now not clear of that, and after Dave was on the line with us, Dave and I talked. They seem to confirm there was a credit on that, and there's a couple other pieces I'll get into. But as I look at it more closely, I'm not sure that's the case, and I'm trying to get an answer why and what is in this change order. I don't know, David, do you have any other thoughts? That we haven't had a chance to talk, but
yeah. So my interpretation of those 4 documents that came across was that the 7,000 was a credit because the milling won't need to be taking place because the road never got its final pavement.
right.
So then the subsequent sheets from that, there was one that offered a cost for seal cracking.
Right.
And then the other one was for paving just the trench, the width of the trench that they'll be creating, putting in the new pipe. And then I believe the last one, and I might have them out of order, but the 4th item was paving curb to curb. And I believe if you look at the individual documents, if you look at the paving from curb to curb, I think they subtract out that $7,000 somewhere towards the bottom of the document. And the same with that trench paving, if I recall them correctly. I don't have them in front of me because
Okay.
I'm out for procedure today. I don't have that document in front of me, but that's what I recall reading. And you might be able to confirm that by looking at the tail end of each one of those.
I mean, I have all that in here. Let me go through there's a $7,000. The change order, the $7,000 credit is for 1 acre of cutting and stumping that we don't have to do, that's pretty clear. We're eliminating about 800 feet, 900 feet of the clearing. So that's one credit. So I think that's easy enough. And then to go to the second sheet that you just mentioned, to do what I believe, and we talked about, is to do in lieu of full width anything, both for the existing contract and for the amended change order. They were going to do New England seal coating crack sealing for the entire length of the other side of the road, which will not have excavation on it. And that's an increased cost of $10,665, and then additional street sweeping for the additional work is $1,200. So that's an additional cost of $13,780. This is what I was saying. This is kind of that seemed to wash out more or less the no clearing, and then the improvements to the pavement that they're not having to touch. What I get confused is on the 2 sheets that on the sheet that has the final number in it. So on one sheet it says full width paving, and it's unclear to me where this cost came from, because if I take this 003A and I go back to the original bid, full width paving 4 inches, they estimated 3,550 15 square yards at a rate of $78 for $274,174. Okay, so that's the numbers that are in the original bid. When I go over to this adjusted change order, it says full width paving. The full width paving the $78 unit cost is in there, but it's reduced to 2,300 square yards, I'm sorry, which at least shows a reduction in the amount of paving, I believe, and I say that questioning, and reduces it to 174. So I think this is where I got confused. They took the 274 and reduced it to 174.8 to compare apples and apples with the trenching pavement in the area that they were going to do full width. So that gives us on that line item about $100,000 credit. Okay. So now I go back and I look at the change order that indicates the additional trench paving. And they have temporary pavement and permanent trench pavement. They show the credit for cutting and stumping. And they show that as a total cost of $108,833. So when I originally looked at it again, they have a credit over here of about 100 and something thousand. And then they have an addition on this of 108, which is a wash. But it's not absolutely clear to me that that's the case. So based on these sheets, which is why I wanted to have CDM take a quick look at it and look at it from that point of view. But I'm looking at the contract, I'm looking at the change orders, and I come up with what should be a net wash of the savings on one end is compensated by the additional on the other, which makes perfect sense to me. And I don't want to presume that if it really is an increase. I still think we should do this if that's for a lot of reasons for the whole neighborhood visual. I mean, now that we have repo, but I don't want to make a motion like I thought I was going to until I get clarification from CDM and CC construction as to what this is. And since we're meeting next Tuesday, right? I think
Yes.
we can wait a couple of days to get this right. So I'll stop there and see if you have any questions. I know, Dave, you had seen this originally, right? The breakdown?
Yes, yeah. And, I did a quick look through on it and I could be interpreting it wrong. So it would definitely be important to get some clarity on it. But let's just play this out, just for thought, since we're all together anyway. Is
Yep.
you were saying you were in favor of it, and by it being, is that doing the trench paving, or is that just for clarity, or doing the curb to curb?
No. I'm in favor of making the change. I'm in favor of making the change to eliminate the full width and replace it with a trench in the roadway from basically the links tie into the existing force main all the way into our new site and do all the work in the roadway and not cut any trees down. And again, that's based on just the overall improvement to the neighborhood and all that kind of thing. But also, it is based on this being a wash, and there's no net cost increase. But even if there is a increase, I think we should entertain it, provided we have the money. We know we're talking about the wrong numbers in the actual SRF approval. We had plenty of, for this kind of thing, we had plenty of additional contingency to work with. And right now, I can't imagine we have any more of these kind of contingencies. We're into this now. But those are my thoughts, at least. I don't.
Brian, can I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah.
The original contract that we had was we weren't going to go into the street until we were 50% of the way there. We were going to stay up on the shoulder.
Correct.
Now, the change that you looked at, or we were looking at for the change order, was to go directly into the street at the condos.
Yes.
And not ride the shoulder at all.
Correct.
Okay, because originally when we were trying to figure this all out, it was my idea to leave it up on the shoulder to save costs of digging up the road. But if we're only going to, and then again, the contract we have now also stated that what they did dig up, they set the 50% further down, they were going to pave sidewalk to sidewalk. So, okay, so now I understand if we go down into the road and we don't do side to side on that second half, all we're paving is the trench, the entire length of that excavation. Now, are there, on that note, that stretch that's on the shoulder that goes all the way down to the double catch basins, are there trees to be removed at that location between there and the condos?
They're already gone. Those are.
I already thought they were all gone. So if that's already cleared, why don't we stay on the shoulder? Is there a reason why we wouldn't stay on the shoulder at that point?
The contractor would still have to cut down most of the trees because he only has a little bit of work to work on. Either way,
right.
The reason is basically that if he stays on the shoulder, he's still digging up the sidewalk and part of the road.
Okay. Yep.
To avoid any kind of tree. There's only a very narrow shoulder. So
and I understand there's some utilities that run along that shoulder as well. But
you get into the catch basins that are right there on the edge, and so the interferences actually go away. It's easier in the street.
Right. Okay. I know. I get it. Like I said, the original plan was to keep it up on the shoulder, so we didn't have to do so much paving. But if we decide not to pave that second section, shoulder to shoulder, or curb to curb, and we just do the trench on that one side of the road all the way down, and just repair it and patch it. You know, I can work with that too. That's fine. Like you said, it should be a net zero at that point in time.
That's what it seems to me if you compare it to the contract, but they don't put the right number in their change order to reflect that 100,000. So I'm on the abundance and caution point of view. I'm going to have another set of eyes review this because I got the contract in front of me and I had it before. I want to make sure this is clear, Bill, because what we already had talked, what has already been talked about between CDM and the contractor is, you may remember right in the beginning, they said that our bid seemed to imply that there was a full course of pavement there to start. And their inspection and our inspection actually showed it's just a base course and it's in terrible condition.
Yeah, so we don't have to do a base and a finish coat there.
Yeah, so that's the credit I'm talking about. There's a credit of that, and what I look at from their bid to what we have, that credit of full width paving for about 800 or 900 feet should be around 100,000. And then when you now add in the pavement for the other 800 or 900 feet, it's about 108,000. So it should be 100 minus 100 is 0. Or maybe 8,000 more, but something like 0.
Right.
But I as I went back, like anything, engineering, we look at these things 50 times and you go, well, what if this is what it means? And what if this is what it means? So,
if you could dig into it a little bit more, that would be great. And on Tuesday, we'll make a final decision. I'll be there in person, whether I can't hear you or not. So, and we'll just get it done.
All right, but I think just to have all of us understanding the numbers I'm seeing, maybe I could have Gene just copy these 2 pages and send them to everybody.
That would be fine.
See what I'm talking about. It's right out of the contract from November, so it's the other page. I'll put the whole thing in. There's only 5 pages, so 3 pages. Okay. So that way, Dave, you, me, Eileen, and we'll all have the same numbers, and then hopefully I'll reach Tom and he can. His message back, his automatic message was on the road. He's in Yarmouth, so.
Yep. It is the season for that.
Yeah, no, we're all going nuts. But I think this is still very helpful to get the facts on the table, and I'll ask Gina to make this copy. And I did give the neighbors a heads up that we were going to talk about this tonight. I thought we were going to vote positively, but I don't think we're at that point yet. But in any event, actually, if Jean, and I don't want to get in the middle of Elaine's mother, just if she talks to you,
Right. So Brian, do you have any data on, so say we bring this pipe out into the street, they've got a price to basically do the trench in the street for the entire way. Is there a price for paving curb to curb the entire distance?
I don't see anything like that, no.
Okay,
All we have is in the contract, a curb to curb cost for the section that was originally to do that. And that's where I get the number on their, item 6B in their contract, which is 3,515 yards, square yards, final full width paving, 4 inches thick, $78 a yard. And it comes up to 274, 170. And then their sheet that has the credit, they use the same $78. They've reduced the full width to 2,300, which when I do the full width, if you take the full width at 4 and the base is 2.5, it's 65% of the total number, and that 2,300 is about that number, 2,300. So those add up correctly, but so that reduces. If I'm taking that line 6B and I take it over here to 2,300 plus, that's a credit of it's 74,000 versus 274. So that tells me they're eating 100,000. Oh, not eating, but they're reducing it 100,000. And then they come back on the other sheet and say, well, now we're going to do trench pavement only the entire length. And that includes trench pavement temporary. So they're going to patch it temporarily, let it settle, and then come back in the fall and do it permanent, or maybe next winter, who knows, next spring, I mean, and do the full. And they have a cost for that, and that's 108.8. So I got 100 on one side and 108 on the other. So there should be, at the worst case, an $8,000 addition. All right.
so what I have here,
That doesn't sound unreasonable.
what I have, this is from CDM.
Yeah.
Was that PCO 003A, which is, it says cost to complete full width road reconstruction on new section of road if force main were to be moved into the roadway. And then
because the original contract showed it from curb to curb, but the second half of it
would only
they were
have,
assuming that the first half of it it will have to be done the exact same way.
yeah, so it seems like that the way I interpret is that PCO 3A would be the additional cost. And I guess that's where it's important to get the clarity.
Right.
And then PCO 3B was the cost to complete final trench paving on the entire length of trench in lieu of any full width road reconstruction.
So I don't.
It gets a little confusing.
There should be no. Again, we already have agreed. We talked about this. There is no full width paving required because that credit, that $100,000 credit, should have been added no matter what, based on their own assertion that to put full width there, that it was our spec. It was a spec, but they didn't have anything to work with. They would have had the whole street up for half of it and put a new road in, and to do that in that section made no sense. So there is some disconnect here. Because you're right. It says full width on top, but we were talking no full width. It's just the trench, and their material costs, temporary pavement, and permanent trench pavement, which is in 3B, should be the correct one, the 108. So
yeah. So that 3B appears to be final paving on the entire length of the trench if we bring it out into the road from beginning to end.
Only in the trench, though.
Yes.
Only in the trench.
So in theory, if I could interject, if we kept it up on the shoulder halfway down there, and they only had to continue to do that to trench work and not curb to curb, we'd save $100,000.
No, because they still have to do the trench. That's what they still have to do the sidewalk and part of the road because they can't go far
Oh, I
enough.
got you.
And
I'm just
cutting
throwing it
stuff,
there for discussion. That's all.
and cutting stuff to
Let's
trees.
hash it out Tuesday. Yeah.
Okay, at least you know what the concerns are, and go from there.
Yep.
So one concern I have is just the issue of what the final product in the road will look like for the people in the town. Obviously curb to curb is a nicer product. But we also have a fiscal responsibility. So there's a catch-22 that I feel like there should be some discussion on.
Well, on that point, the road, the entire subdivision road is in terrible condition and is the subject of multiple complaints by the residents.
Mm-hmm.
For us to, and this is the question I put in my email, unless we had some legal requirement under some previous agreement to do curb to curb and basically build this road as if the owner of the subdivision was doing it correctly, and then we would have to keep doing it. But I have heard from no one. Elaine, they told me, Bill, I don't know if you had it weighed in on this.
Yeah, I probably would have. Yep.
There was no requirement to do this. It was some kind of, I think, goes back several years, and somebody just said, knowing how we're dealing with, who we're dealing with, we would do that. But it really doesn't buy anything for the neighborhood except a 800-foot new drag racing place.
It would be called a new Route 80.
Yeah,
is what it would be called.
So it's right. So to your point, Dave, I think what we're going to do is make a significant improvement to the road for the entire straightaway from the Links corner to our entrance to the new leaching field. One half will be a brand new base course, nice and level, nice and done. It will look, if you've been around town, or what you have, how they've been doing all these gas lines, shallow 4-inch, 6-inch gas lines.
Yeah.
They come back in the next year. One half of the pavement is brand new. It's going to look exactly like that. So you have one half will be the old thing, what it looks like now around the entire subdivision, and one half will be brand new base course, so that when Mr. Tonsberg or whoever owns this and does the work, he will or she will be able to pave over a nice new base course as opposed to the rest of the place, which they may have to rip it up and put a new base course. I mean, it's so bad shape that you'd have to mill what's there, put it back down as a base, and then put new pavement over it. That's how typically you do that.
Right.
So
it's so fractured.
Yeah.
It's only a base. It's always been just a base coat.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where we were talking about, curb to curb. We were assuming that it was a finished product.
Right. It would have been a 4-inch, the 2.5 base and an 1.5 cover, which really didn't mean necessary at all. The other point that CC did pick up on, and it was something we had talked about, they are going to go to the other side, though, the side that's not going to be touched, and do a very, very good crack sealant plan for the entire length parallel to our trench.
Right.
So,
instead of just doing it for the first half, if we were to stay up on the shoulder, no, they wouldn't be doing that. They'd be doing that down.
Yeah, so that instead of the full width, they're going to do crack sealant from the entire length of the other side of the road, which we are not touching. But to improve it somewhat, they're going to have seal coat come in, like they do the parking lots and things. They're going to seal coat every crack so that no one can come back to us and say, you left this mess of crack.
Right.
And, so that'll be our insurance, if you will, that we took and made the existing condition as good as we could have, short of rebuilding the whole thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that'll stop it from heaving because the water's getting under it.
Yeah.
through the cracks. All right.
So
I'm
that-
good. I'm good with this discussion, and we'll finish up on it
Okay.
on Tuesday.
So there's nothing else on the agenda, and I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I'll second that
Okay.
motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bill Watson, aye.
Brian Donovan. Aye.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.